through our relationships with CMOs from around the world, many of whom sit on our board of directors, we're very aware of the tension that exists within marketing between brand marketing and performance marketing, including what share of budget should be split between both. We'll be releasing some unique insights on that later this year, but for today, let's focus on brand building and storytelling. One of our CMOs commented, marketing can be summed up in 4 words. Great stories well told. Great stories well told. My name is Chris Babayode. I'm the Managing Director of the MMA in the EMEA region. And I'm really delighted to be with you today to moderate this session on the art of storytelling in the digital age. So let's consider this some more. Great stories need great storytelling and great creative. Talking about creative, here at the MMA, we've produced a paper outlining the first-second strategy. Our research shows that the human brain can recognize advertising within content on mobile devices in less than 1 second, in 0.47 seconds of 1 second to be precise. That's why creative for mobile advertising needs to hit home and fast. Your audience are simply a swipe away from moving on. And we have a number of recommendations about how you can hold your audience for that first second, and in fact, for every second of your advertising. You know, whether it's the use of color, shapes, eye lines, messages, logos, and telling stories. In the last year or so, it's become even more important to marketers and their agencies to build digital, non-physical relationships with both their existing and potential new customers. Indeed, Dr. Leslie Wood, a world-renowned expert on marketing growth and building brands, believes that loyalty is the key to brand success. And in this age of hugely increased time spent and usage in this digital world, loyalty has become difficult to maintain for some, but for others, it represents an opportunity to entice new customers to trial their products and services. So as we'll see in this session, storytelling is an important and key ingredient in building consumer relationships. And it's two-way, to and from the consumers, them to you, you to them. All marketers and their businesses want to be customer-centric. The customer is king. And it's the dialogue within storytelling that can facilitate this. And just a couple of further points before I introduce our panelists today. Setting the scene for today, think of the segments and demographics. Think maybe of Generation Z and some of the characteristics of their behaviors, a sense of community, a sense of dialogue, real two-way communication. This behavior makes them a prime target that lends itself to communicating via storytelling. And secondly, think of the thrill of discovery or the sense of familiarity that can come with storytelling, giving customers a meaningful connection, and in many cases, offering engaging surprises. So let me now introduce you to our esteemed panel. I'm delighted to welcome Ali Conker, Head of Operations and Marketing at Tazedirekt and Macroonline, 2 online retailers, and Faheem Saiyad from Storyly, and he's currently responsible for leading the development of Storyly as a SaaS provider. Welcome both. Faheem, we'll come to you shortly. But Ali, if we can begin with yourself, can you give us your perspective, or as an online retailer, about the storyline and the storytelling topic that we have today?
Thank you for an amazing introduction, Chris. When we consider the emerging social platforms over the years, we can trace the evolution in the art of storytelling. This is especially true for brands, how they formulate their creative. More and more, brands need to be more concerned about their ability to tell engaging stories in a matter of seconds on a daily basis. They also need to be smart and flexible in the way they work with storytellers and influential content creators. They sometimes even co-create the content together. Apparently, the attention span of humans has now decreased to 8 seconds. I know it's crazy to hear, but not as shocking when I think about my own scrolling habit. This is a true challenge for marketers as well as content creators. As most interactions are digital between the brand and the customer, brand loyalty constantly tested by how users experience the brand and service. At Tazedirekt, we first think about how we connect with our customers along with our suppliers and their products. Almost every product we sell has a journey, a story of who and how they're produced and what they consist of. I mean the ingredients or whether they are pesticide free or not, and etc. A story that can end up with conversation if we can beautifully illustrate or narrate and tell it in the right way and format. Our customers are willing to hear the story behind that apple and then convinced to buy that apple as they know for certain what they're eating. This is new form of content, brings us closer to the consumer's need and expectations, and it does so in scale. For example, one of the frequent pieces of feedback we are getting was about bananas showing up very green, I mean raw, when delivered. To give the right reasoning for why our customers get green bananas, we devoted a series of videos on our stories where our farmer became the storyteller, informing users about how a banana is made. I mean, the true story that and struggles behind the production and logistics process to bring that single banana from their farm to the table with a minimum waste. The content reinforced our commitment to be transparent and waste-free approach to our customers, and it was a refreshing take on how to address user feedback. Another success we stumbled upon was cart abandonment. Instead of just push notifications that annoy users, we battled abandoned carts with Storely. In about a month, our abandon rate was at around 48% instead of 68%.
Right, thanks, Ali. That's great. That's great to hear. But I also understand that you run a premium brand, Macroonline. It'd be brilliant if you could share some of the experiences you have with the premium brand.
Sure. Macro Center is our premium retail brand, and it also has an app tailored for more of an affluent segment, catering services similar to the in-store experience. Macro Center's story has an entirely different focus and positioning compared to Tazedirekt. There, the unique experience is the most important thing, both for online and offline. Our chic design stores and elite staff provides our customers a unique in-store experience. We are willing to apply the same for our online services. Therefore, the content and the conversation are tailored to create a VIP experience for the user. Macro Center customers are not just willing to pay more for a more premium product, but they are often exclusive, unique experience, specially designed for their habits and preferences. The ideal scenario is providing the right content to lead them the right product through the easiest and most seamless way possible. Here, we're constantly working to fulfill the growing on-demand expectation of our customers. For example, every year, we have a New Year's Eve special deal in December. It is one of our busiest and most elaborate seasonal offerings. You can say we tend to show our customers the royal treatment during this time. We get very creative in store with decorations to reflect the season's charm and cheer. And past December, we saw remarkable success when we brought the same wow factor in retail to our app through stories. Our annual conversation campaign online on the app saw an impressive 40% click-through rate, a significant increase from 15% the year before. Now, we always look for ways to explore this further. We have grocers and butchers who are well trained and, more importantly, passionate about the part they play in the retail experience. Most go beyond their daily job and build relationship with our in-store customers. We want to bring the same value and that human touch to our app as well. We're hosting a series of staff via stories on the app. Each staff member, say a butcher, is giving fun facts or useful tips and tricks about the food they love and know. They are helping us tailor the mobile shopping experience with exclusive content and authentic feel. That way, a significant in-store added value will seamlessly translate into the user journey on the app.
That's great. That's very interesting. Thanks, Ali. And I think what's clear is that collecting data and turning that into insights is key. And we know it's crucial for organization. So can you share with us how you and your organization have benefited from Storyly in terms of gathering these really important consumer insights?
One of the interesting ways we benefit from Storyly is actually predetermining our stock based on consumer insight, especially for exported premium goods. The stories on our app, just like Instagram stories, have interactive components so a user can easily react, like, heart, to a story of a product. We also have the ability to use polls to test user interest before introducing new products. Along with search inputs on the app, these interactive qualities let us track what is getting attention and favorably to inform our decisions on product variety and stock. Speaking of insight, we recently tested a new form of stories with just audio rather than visual storytelling. And I mean a still image of product with a voiceover narrating the story for product discovery. We've all been hooked on Clubhouse as the new social novelty. Plus, you can't ignore the growing appeal in podcast and audiobook. I cannot say for sure the future of social media is audio, but I can speak to the proof that people are liking to it and also exploring it. This is what we hope to do always, show up differently and with meaning as brand, both on Tazedirekt and Macroonline. I'll let Faheem to tell the magic behind this game-changing technology content on our app instead of just the journey to purchase. We have seen that user engagement in Tazedirekt app largely depends on how we curate and showcase the content. Tazedirekt has a clear and unique brand positioning, which our customers respond to really well. Our story here is to be fully transparent and provide the stories of the members of our ecosystem, whether they're in product discovery or making their shopping list in the cart. This is a common thread, consistent tone, and messaging that embraces the real deal behind the scenes. We're constantly looking for new ways to visually and effectively illustrate our brand essence. One of the recent and most impactful features we have added to the app has been the stories functionality. The stories feature, powered by our partner Storyly, have made it possible for us to bond with our customers through stories of our suppliers. Emerging from Instagram and the like, stories have become a compelling form of content. For reference, 1 in 4 millennials look for stories of the product and services they want to buy. That's impressive, right? When you think about stories as a medium, they are not as interruptive as other digital mediums, yet they still make the content accessible. We know that 42% of users on Instagram watch stories, and it is the #1 activity in the app. We are willing to use seamlessly integrated new technologies to simplify the experience in a cost-effective way. The team and technology at Storyly hit all these marks as promised. Storyly team took the time to understand the complexities of our business. They were hands-on during the integration, and they are still a close strategic partner working with us in order to leverage stories the best way possible. More and more, we see that the actual brand connection and stickiness happens when we utilize the app space effectively to amplify our brand story. Beyond user retention, Storyly has allowed us to get smarter and more targeted with our content. Via segmentation, it enables us to reach the right users with contextualized content and trigger our stories based on their previous events and purchases.
Great, thanks, Ali. Thanks for those insights and sharing all of that with us. Really fascinating. But actually, we've mentioned in our discussions Storyly a couple of times now. So let's turn to Faheem. Welcome, Faheem, to our session today. And please, tell our audience more about this particular app. And I think, it really has the potential to be quite a game changer. We've heard from Tazedirekt that user engagement really does depend on how content is curated and showcased. So please tell us more.
Thank you for the introduction, Chris. And Ali did very well, take the whole aspect of things at here Storyly as well. The reason being, at the end of the day, any app, it could be a retail app, it could be an e-commerce app, the end user is a human being, right? So there are certain human factors that were played into this as well. And so before Storyly came to life, we had a certain sector experience as well. We had been as App Samurai in the market for 6 years. That had gained us quite insights into how the whole app world was working, right? And some common pain points. And Ali also did mention a unique number, right? 42%. So this 42% is basically, the Instagram stories that are being actually consumed by people. So what happened was stories was a unique concept that Snapchat brought to life, and then Instagram took it and it went on to another level. So now you have stories on your LinkedIn page, you have stories on Twitter, etc., because it gave you as a brand a unique way to actually deliver content. And at the same time, for the users, it gave them a unique way to consume this content, right? Because up till now they were consuming carousels, banners, grids. So all of this was one of the key barriers on why people were not engaging with the content, even if the brand was actually putting it out there. Because again, the attention span is less than 8 seconds of a human, right? You show them 3 pieces of media at the same time, so obviously they have to choose which ones they will actually pay attention to. So these were some common norms that we actually wish to address, and we did address this with Storyly as well. Which actually enables us to have a similar story open rate as Instagram. So Instagram had a 42% success rate that we replicated to almost 40%. So what we have seen at the moment with clients is anytime a client adds the story bar inside their app, they have seen almost a 40% replication of the experience with the story consumption, similar to what Instagram offers, basically because of the social norm. Anytime you or me, we see a piece of story, right? We actually know what to expect from this. So that is why a whole social norm is being adopted to the whole story reaction as well. And what happens is once the Storyly bar goes inside the app, the stickiness of the app increases. What I mean by this is before coming to the engagement, the aspect is about user acquisition. So apps acquire users, but those users might not be active inside that app, right? So they all have this engagement issue. So they have their own daily active users, they have their own monthly active users as well. So with stories, what we have seen is almost a 16% increase in the daily active user to the monthly active user count. The reason being, anytime you deliver them a piece of content via stories, their willingness to come back, as Ali did mention as well. You serve them new pieces of content, you show them the story of the farmers, what goes on behind the scenes. So when people know that there are more and more ways of consuming the content, when there is more and more unique content available inside the app, their willingness to come inside the app and actually interact with it is much more higher. And that's where you will actually see an overall increase in the retention rates as well. On a short term, what it looks like is, let's say a client X has enabled Storyly inside their app today. Just in the first 7 weeks, or just in the first 7 days, on average, you will see a 10% increase in the retention rates. So that's data, right? That's numbers. So when you speak numbers, you have some data backing it as well. And that's why, just within the first 7 days, a client can actually see what value that story as a concept. What we have also seen is this: each story has its own unique call to action button, right? Similar to Instagram. So if you're presenting them with a certain piece of media, you could add a unique call to action to let them swipe up or tap now, etc. So these are interactive components that also make the user take the second action inside the app, which has a 30% CR, right? So what we have seen is, compared to a carousel or a grid or a banner, this 30% CTR is much, much more higher compared to these other formats. And hence, brands are obliging more and more to actually come into the play and use Storyly to replace the old formats of the carousels, banners, and grids, and serve the audience this new social norm of stories, something that Storyly has made quite easy to apply as well.
Great, thanks for that, and some impressive stats as you went through there. So, but added to all of this, and as I understand it, your functionality doesn't require each app to develop like a single piece of code. So could you tell us some more about how does this all happen? What's the magic behind it all?
Sure, Chris. So usually what happens is, again, taking back to our initial days at App Samurai, where we were working with these app owners, one common problem each app owner had was regarding implementation. Because anytime you have to implement something inside the app, you need to deploy an SDK, right? You need to implement an SDK. And usually product maps or product teams, they have a tough a roadmap. So they plan the whole quarter ahead. Often they plan the whole year ahead. So what they are going to prioritize is often fixed, right? Because with the implementation, it takes quite a lot of time. So what we wanted to do was serve out a solution that, while of course it would help the marketing team with spreading out the stories, at the same time, it wouldn't be heavy on the routine of the developmental team, all the engineering team. So when we say it as no code, it means this, Chris. The implementation takes hardly a couple of hours, a few lines of code at max, right? And it's a one-time implementation. Once you do that implementation, all the other magic happens on the dashboard. So that is why what we have seen is clients do this. By morning, they initiate the POC, they try to start out the integration, and by evening, the POC is ready and about to go live. So just in one day, a few hours, half a day at max, depending on what ad platform they use, they can actually go live inside the app to ensure that, that SDK or the Storyly as a service is not harming their product map in any way. Because with SDKs, again, one of the common pushbacks was, okay, that's well and good, but I don't have enough time for this, or my roadmap is full, let's speak later. So to avoid all of these and to actually make it a hassle-free approach, that's where the whole no-code aspect of things came to life, and something that we have seen with multiple app owners work wonderfully. So a couple of hours at max to make sure that when the marketing team loves the Storyly concept, and when they go to the product team, they don't receive no as an answer, because the moment the product team sees our integration documents, they just realize that it's quite a simple walkthrough and quite easy to implement inside their app as well.
That's great. That's great. And I think today we've had a lot of information that we've shared with our audience, which has been really insightful and shared some really experiences. And I suspect a number of people listening and watching today have not been really aware of this opportunity in terms of how powerful storytelling can be. So maybe as we come towards the end of our session here, if we could have a couple of takeaways from each of you in terms of, from what the audience have heard from you today, what is it that you would like them to take away today? So maybe, Ali, if I come back to you, given your experiences both with Tazedirekt and with Macro, maybe you've got a key takeaway for our audience against both of those online retailers that you own.
Chris, again, I can say that brands do not need to discover new stuff to engage with their customers, and they can use story function at their any touch point they like, mostly at their apps. And I'm suggesting that every brand should be a story brand and use story function, whether they are whether they have an app or a website. It can go for both, and that's a really easy and well-known way of how to engage with customers. I can say that.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And so then, Faheem, a couple of takeaways from yourself. I mean, you mentioned the implementation and the content, and you mentioned a number of different sort of numbers and performance metrics. So just a sum up or a couple of takeaways would be great.
Sure thing. So with Storyly, each day the product is evolving, right? Because as the people evolve, as technology evolves, we evolve as well. So that is why Storyly has come up with tons of new features, basically, that are already in line, and that will be live very soon as well. So a couple of key takeaways is this, basically, right? People, as Ali did mention before as well, content is king. So marketing departments spend hours and weeks to actually plan this unique content, and then they deliver it as a carousel, banner, or a typical format. They don't get the performance, right? So that's where the whole drop falls. So when you're actually spending that much time creating content, right, how that content is displayed or how that content is viewed, it's also quite important, right? And that's why the whole story concept, something that you will be seeing basically almost in every app in the next few months to few years, because of the way people as humans have adopted to that rate. And that's why, stories is basically the next big thing. At Storyly, there are quite a few interesting things as well, because with Storyly, right, you have these unique fun ways to consume content. So let's say, as you might, whenever I see stories, that it's more like a native placement. So you actually get to consume one piece of media at a time. So your users can actually consume that rich media, rich videos, rich images, for example, and each media has their own unique call to action button. Now, what our clients do is use these call to action buttons to push the user to take a certain action inside the app or send them to an action outside of the app. So these are something that can't be done on a carousel or a banner, since not each carousel or a banner could have their own unique interaction, right? Or you could send up an interaction that swipe up to add to basket, for example. So without disrupting the user, without sending them outside of the app, etc., you can actually make them take multiple action points. So it's a two-way thing, right? You show them something and then they respond back with an action. That's where all of these interactions of Storyly were something that are key factors as well. And then we have a unique thing called product tags, right? Because with the whole shopping experience, everybody loves their influencers, basically, right? Because influencers have this own community. So people love to do what the influencer tells them to do, or when the influencer is highlighting a piece of collection, for example, people want to buy that, right? So again, with Storyly, you have these product tags. So let's say you have an influencer called Linda, right? Linda is a big, let's say, fashion influencer, right? So when Linda is actually highlighting products inside the app, for example, with Storyly, you can actually place product tags. So as she goes through her products, each product would have their own unique product tag. So the users can actually consume it, probably buy the item, read more, see photos, descriptions, etc., while consuming that piece of content as well. Again, things like these are not at all possible with the typical way of delivering content. To follow up on that comes the whole live shopping experience, because again, live shopping is something that is going very, very global these days, and especially with the pandemic, where people are avoiding going to their stores and to their shopping malls. Online and live shopping is something that is quite interesting these days. And hence with Storyly, again, let's say you are a brand, you have a unique influencer. So while the influencer is actually showing off that dress, showing off that collection example, your users can actually interact with it and do the shopping as they hear Linda talk about it, basically, right? So the whole live shopping experience is something that is being used very uniquely with the whole Storyly aspect. So Storyly just does not give you an SDK. It does not just give you a way to show stories. Rather, it gives you a whole new world, right? You can show content. You can ask your users to interact with them. You could conduct polls, surveys, live streaming, live shopping. If it's a fitness app, right? Do a live fitness session, for example. So depending on what client it's built for, basically, it can be easily customizable, the whole look and feel of it, so that it fits uniquely inside every app as well. And then comes the final aspect of personalization, right? Because everybody loves to see the personal content, as Ali mentioned as well. So if they know that, for example, Ali as a user will see personalized stories, things that he can relate to the best, basically. Again, with carousels, banners, again, this personalization is possible only to a certain extent, to almost none. With stories, because of these seamless integrations and automations that we provide with your CRM tool data, with your DMP data, you can actually take this data and actually segment your audience. Let's say a certain language audience would see a certain story, a certain demographic would see a certain story, a certain user would see a certain story. The whole aspect of it was, give users what they want to see, rather than actually giving them this generic piece of content. And that was the whole aspect of, using Storyly in a unique manner with all the data points to actually promote personalized pieces of content, and hence, push brands to actually convert those users, probably from free users to paid users, or take them to the action item of finishing a certain shopping experience, Chris.
Well, that's great. Thanks very much indeed. And I thank you both very much for your insights and the testimonials you've shared with us today. So this has been an MMA session titled The Age of Storytelling in a Digital Age, with Ali from Tazedirekt and Macroonline, and Faheem from Storyly, and myself, Chris Babayode. As I said at the beginning, brand marketing and brand building can be summed up as great stories well told. Goodbye and stay safe.